My next topic is about Fat Joe and Joe and Jada. Now, let me be clear when I say this. I'm from the Bronx. I grew up with nothing but Puerto Ricans, right? And Puerto Ricans have been in our neighborhood as long as I can remember. My babysitter, rest in peace, Miss Lily, she was Puerto Rican and she used to be my babysitter. I used to speak Spanish as a kid because I had a Puerto Rican babysitter, right? However, Puerto Ricans are not black, right? And since the days of NWA, prior to NWA, we didn't call each other the N word, right? Our parents wouldn't even approve of us calling each other the N word. Old heads, they used to hate it when we were younger, running around using the N word, excuse me, which we adapted from NWA. NWA made it uh, a culture thing where we all started calling each other the N word and started feeling comfortable with it. And then we all came up with this BS ideology that, oh, we took the power out the word, we made it a term of endearment. And, we call each other the N word now as a term of endearment, which is BS, honestly speaking. But I'm very guilty of it. I use the N word every day of my life since straight out of Compton or niggas for life, right? Or 100 miles and running EP. At some point in my life, it became a part of my vocab, right? Prior to that, it wasn't, right? But NWA popularized the word NIWGA and made it a cool thing that today we say it to each other. We refer to each other as, instead of black man, you know, or brother man, which it was before NWA when we had the public enemies, the ex clans, the poor righteous teachers, you know, we weren't calling each other the N word. It was Afrocentric bees, this, that, and the other. And then here come NWA with the White Sox hat, so on and so forth, the all black. And we adopted this word, the N word. So being that Puerto Ricans were around at the time, you know, and they were in the neighborhood growing up with us, you know, they derogatory word was spick or German, right? So when you said something derogatory or out of anger or when you mad at a Puerto Rican person, you would call them a spick or a German, right? For black people, you would call them a nigger, right? So once NWA popularized the N word and made it so they said it was a term of endearment, or we took the power out the word and we used it against the white people that used to call us that, you know, we not that N word that hung from ropes. We are the N word that wear ropes. People came with all types of BS to justify us using the N word against amongst each other, right? So, like I said, Puerto Ricans, they've been around, as long as I know and since I was a baby, right? And I'm in my 50s. And my babysitter was Puerto Rican, right? But my babysitter never called me the N word, right? Um, and I never call my babysitter a spick or a German, right? So now, moving forward, 50 years later, you know, a lot of Puerto Ricans have adopted the N word in their vocabulary, and some of them don't mean nothing by it. However, Fat Joe, he feels he has the right to use the word uh, as a black person because he grew up in the projects and he grew up around black people. So he's very comfortable using the N word. However, according to people like Cuban Link or TA the Legend, allegedly Fat Joe is racist and he talked bad about black people and uses the N word with the hard ER about us when he's mad, right? Allegedly, which I don't doubt, right? Because if you look at Fat Joe's crew, there's nobody black in it. The last black person that he hung out with was DITC. A lot of these war stories he be talking about don't exist without showbiz, from showbiz and AG, right? A lot of these stories he talking about, oh, I had 100 niggas with me, this, that, and other. Those were showbiz people. Ain't no bunch of black dudes following Poppy, right? They following showbiz or they following BO. Like Fat Joe is not the Pied Piper of black men or N words, right? So you could believe that if you want, right? But a lot of that came with dudes like Showbiz, right? Those was his dudes that was protecting Joe back then. But as you can see now, once Joe blew up and got around Pun, it was no more black people around Fat Joe. Whether it's Rich the Player, whether it's Pistol Pete or whatever, Pistol Pete is another one who stuck a Puerto Rican flag in the middle of the jail and they cut all the black dudes. So that go to show you that there's racist tendencies in these guys. If Pistol Pete could sit there and say that they stuck the Puerto Rican flag in the middle of the jail and in the yard and started cutting all the black dudes. If you don't know that these dudes is racist from that statement alone, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, right? But my thing is this. You sit there and you watch this Fat Joe and Jada podcast, right? And Fat Joe sits up there and he used the N word abusively, right? Now, I'm not saying he can't use it, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, there are Puerto Rican people that I mess with that say the N word, and I'm not offended by it because they are a part of the culture or they grew up in the neighborhood and it became a slang thing. And I take it as NIWGA, right? But Fat Joe be sitting up there with Jada, and sometimes he's using the word as a term of endearment, but then there's times that he's using it allegedly in a racist term. Like when he's mad at a black person or a black person that did something that pissed him off. And he's like, yo, man, this nigga, da 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 da. And Jada just sits there. And I know Jada feels the way that I feel, right? But Jada don't say nothing. But when Fat Joe is on that show and he's mad at a black person or a black person try to do something crazy, he's not saying GA, he's saying GER. And I don't know how Jada sits there and doesn't say anything about it. Because it happens way too often. He talks about black people in the term where he'd be like, yo, man, that's my nigga, woo, 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 so and so and so and so, yeah, yo, why that's my nigga. And then he's talking about black people where he's like, yo, man, I was what you call it, this dude, Young Buck, he was talking trash to them. And I'm like, yo, this nigga is different. It's different when he's saying it as in term of endearment or a hip hop slang. And then when he's mad and he's saying it with the Niggger. Yo, this nigga, I hurt this nigga, right? And I'll be looking at Jada like, Jada, why don't you say something when he's changing it from the GA to the GER? And then if you listen to Jews like Cuban Link and TA the Legend that hung with Joe and tell you that Joe is a racist, allegedly, right? You hear it when he's saying it. And I just be wondering, how do Jada let it slide? Like, yo, Joe, you gotta watch that. You gotta watch that, Joe. You saying the GER. You saying the GER, Joe. Yo, Joe, you gotta watch that, my nigga. You saying nigger. You're not saying nigger, Joe. Gotta stop that. You know what I mean? Flag on the play, Joe. You saying nigger, yo. Who you calling the nigger, Joe? Like, and I get it. Joe's tough because he always got people around him. You're never going to catch Joe by himself running around with the super gangster persona. He's like these other dudes that you always see with 50, 100 different dudes around. Niggas is not tough by themselves. They tough with goons around them. You know what I'm saying? Right? Now, I'm not saying he won't fight to defend himself, but he's much more comfortable when he got 100 dudes with him. That's why all his stories, I had 100 niggas with me. This, that, and the other. Right? Or he got crash test dummies around him. You're not going to catch Fat Joe by himself, ever. You're never going to catch him by himself, ever. I'm not saying he puss or anything like that. I'm just saying you're not going to catch him by himself. He's always going to have a crash test dummy with him. But you got to know the difference of when he's saying NIGGA opposed to NIGGER. And he says it very, very often and frequently when he's talking to Jada. So when he's mad at a black person or he feels like a black person was violating, you hear it in his voice. You hear it in his speech. Yo, this nigga, his nigga. And Jada just be sitting there. Joe, yo, Joe. Like he don't say nothing. And I lose a crumb, not too much, because I know Jada got to get his bag, and I know he got to work with this dude. You know what I'm saying? But I lose a crumb of respect when he go from the GA to the GER and Jada don't say nothing. Especially when I know, according to TA and Cuban, allegedly, that Joe's a racist. And you can look at his circle and tell that he is not fond of black people. He uses black people because to be a part of the culture. When his man talk about sticking the Puerto Rican flag in the middle of the yard and start cutting a bunch of black people, you know that they are racist. To each his own, but Jada's still my man. You know what I mean? I ain't got nothing but love for Jada. But get your money, Jada. But pay attention, Jada. If you never paid attention before, somebody gonna send you this video because you know how these internet rats do. You know what I'm saying? Oh, nigga, Choke was talking about you. They done sent this to Joe already before I even got off. Nigga, Choke talking about you. So I'm just kicking the truth, and I ain't scared of none of them niggas. I ain't saying I'm looking for no smoke, but I'm just saying I ain't scared of nobody. You know what I'm saying? Especially a nigga that can't move around by theyself. So I just say that to say, man, it's very weird to me how nobody watches that show and doesn't realize when Joe is talking about niggas and niggers. You can hear it. You can hear it in his tone. You could tell by the way that he's saying it. Somebody said can choke. Can Puerto Ricans be guard body? Anybody can be guard body. That's just being having knowledge of self. You know what I'm saying? And supporting, I mean, and studying supreme mathematics and all that. You know what I'm saying? So your color don't matter or your race don't matter as far as being guard body. It's just having knowledge of self and how you eat and things of that nature. So yes, a Puerto Rican can be guard body. There's plenty of Puerto Rican guards and herbs. Yeah. But I'm gonna move on from that. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, Jada will get the vibe and he'll start paying attention to it. You know what I'm saying? And whenever Joe calling us niggers, he'll throw the flag. You know what I mean?